is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this four-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds.
If Bud was the best, I got to give it to him. Bud the best, right? He's hands down. He's the best. He's the best right now. I don't think nobody need to question him no more. I mean, you kind of got to give him his respect no matter what. You got to give him his respect. He just went up 2 weight classes, what people said he couldn't do. He's doing everything that people say he can't do.
I've been a world champion, as you know, and I've been a 3-division world champion. I've only won 1 of the belts. I don't know what it is to be undisputed. I don't know that feeling. Do you understand? What he did last night is unbelievable.
Floyd Mayweather has come under fire from Stephen A. Smith for disparaging Terence Crawford following his triumph over Canelo. Smith maintained that Crawford made history by becoming undisputed in several weight classes. Pointing out that no fighter had ever accomplished this feat, he emphasized that Crawford merited widespread acclaim rather than condemnation, and that he deserved every piece of his legacy. Smith thinks that Crawford's victory over Canelo was a turning point that improved his standing as one of the greatest fighters of all time, not just another victory. He made it apparent that Crawford's outstanding achievement could not be overshadowed by Mayweather's hostility.
Is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this four-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab, he used his distance.
Jeff Mayweather voiced strong opinions over the shock that Crawford gave Canelo, highlighting the fact that the loss will always be remembered. According to him, Canelo was the division's undeniable monarch, possessing both prestige and power over his rivals. However, he lost in a humiliating defeat to a person who dared to face him at his own castle and go up in weight. For Jeff, this was not a minor flaw. Rather, it was a stain that would always be associated with Canelo's name in boxing history. He emphasized how defining moments define champions in their prime, and for Canelo, that moment was a crushing defeat to Crawford.
But either way, he was in discussion certainly with Chavez. What did this do to his legacy? Because I don't think he caught, the Floyd fight didn't give him, people didn't really look down on him because even though he had 40 fights, he was still, fighting one of the greatest ever in an absolute master. And Bivol, he went up weight classes to win. But now he's fighting a smaller guy, a great fighter, but a smaller guy. Does this damage his legacy in any way?
I think it does. I think it does because, the one thing is this, is that, you were ruling, you were the king of that weight class. And the king of that weight class for a good while. And I think that, he had a huge following because, he became the face of boxing.
And even though it's another, future Hall of Famer, still losing, losing a guy come up a couple weight classes, kind of makes you seem not as great as you might have been.
Stephen A. Smith couldn't contain his admiration for Crawford's victory. He emphasized that he was there for this momentous occasion, which made the victory even more intimate for him to observe. Smith claims that no one in boxing history has ever done what Terence Crawford recently did, which was to move up in weight and convincingly defeat a dominant champion like Canelo. He described it as a career-defining accomplishment that distinguishes Crawford from the others and guarantees that this evening will always be remembered in the lengthy history of the sport. For Smith, it was more than simply a bout. It represented a significant change in the boxing definition of greatness.
This was Terence Bud Crawford moving up 2 weight divisions, really 3 in my mind because we only fought 1 fight at the junior middleweight division. So he's really moving up from 147 pounds, okay? Terence Bud Crawford moving up to the 168-pound limit in an effort to claim the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world from the grasp of Saul Canelo Alvarez. Now, I was there. I was there. Because let me tell you something right now. There's very, very few sporting events in the world that are better than a super fight in Vegas. I can tell you that right now. There's very, very few events. Props to Nick Khan of the WWE.
Following the fight, Crawford's trainer made it abundantly evident that his boxer had nothing more to prove. According to him, Terrence has arrived at a stage where everyone should be treated with respect. However, some detractors continue to deny it. This annoyance highlighted the reality that Crawford continues to struggle with storylines outside of the ring even after taking down one of the greatest boxing names. Terry's trainer made it clear that he isn't even considering fighting again at this time because his performance against Canelo was more than sufficient to solidify his status as a great fighter. This was no longer about chasing names for Crawford. Establishing an indisputable legacy was the goal.
Terrence Crawford and his well-renowned trainer, two-time trainer of the year and future Hall of Fame trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre, recently did an interview in which Bomac stated that a fight is not happening. And this particular fight is a fight that everybody wanted to see Canelo Alvarez take, and Canelo Alvarez refused to take this fight with a 28-year-old two-division world champion, reigning WBC light heavyweight, former two-time WBC super middleweight, the Mexican Ecuadorian superstar boxer, who's one of my favorite fighters and a great person, David, the Mexican Ecuadorian monster Benavidez, who has 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout. Stands at 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach and fights at 175. But the entire time David Benavidez was fighting at 168, Canelo Alvarez was brought up and he never accepted the fight. And so with that said, now people are trying to project this fight on Terrence Crawford. And they're saying that Terrence Crawford needs to take the fight. So Bomac yesterday did an interview and Bomac said they're not fighting David Benavidez. And so now people are pushing this notion that Terrence Crawford is ducking and Terrence Crawford is scared of David Benavidez. And if he don't fight David Benavidez, according to Boxing News 24,